Welcome to Sea Talk. Today we are joined by Ali, Jas, and Hugo.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, everyone. So today we're joined by Hugo from Diageo, and we're talking about what's trending in stores with the all good to go RTDs. So Hugo, over to you. The floor's yours. You've got three good retailers here, and it'll be a really good discussion to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Paul, and thanks everyone for the opportunity to be on today to talk about all things RTD. Certainly, I think a really interesting category to be talking about now, very relevant given, I guess, the summer months ahead of us, however that may plan out to be with all the restrictions that we are becoming too familiar with. But if I just give you a little brief overview of the category itself. So it's now the fastest growing BWS category in convenience. So it's growing ahead of spirits, beer, and cider, as well as total alcohol too. So very much the kind of top of the echelon in terms of fastest growing categories. If we think back to a year ago, to when kind of COVID was really making a dent in our shores, the RTD category, unlike the other BWS categories that I've mentioned, didn't see the big spike in sales that we did in, say, spirits and beer. One of the key reasons for that was obviously the whole on-the-go occasion, the on-the-go type mission that we've become so accustomed to when buying RTD was fundamentally stripped out of society. So we effectively, I guess, sadly missed pretty much the entire summer for that RTD type occasion. There were pockets within where the sun came out and restrictions were eased, but looking back at the numbers and some of the numbers that I'm sure you guys are starting to see come through now, it's no surprise that RTD is a category now that's seeing really, really strong growth year on year. I mentioned kind of the next 3-4 months being really important for the category. We've got favourable conditions now. We've got the sun shining. We've got people kind of being far more accustomed to catching up with friends and families in gardens and parks. From a convenience store perspective, consumers are readily aware that they can now get everything they need from their local stores. Not least, they're supporting local businesses and local communities. So I guess with that weather improving, the occasion up and running, the on-trade opening up as well, it's kind of these factors really being mixed together now to create, I guess, pardon the pun, the perfect cocktail for RTD growth. So long may that continue. I guess when you break down the category itself, within convenience, it's dominated by both premix and alco pops. So both of those particular segments combined together for over 90% share of sales. So a very different shape to the category compared to that in the grocery world, which is dominated by premix. And I touch on this premix because I think particularly within convenience, with the way the growth is currently, it's all coming through premix. I guess 12 months ago, it was all coming through alco pops as the on-trade shut and people wanted to enjoy the type of drinks that they couldn't replicate in the on-trade in home. So I guess times have changed now. Everyone's outside, and premix are definitely seeing really, really strong growth coming through within the impulse channel. I guess when you factor what's kind of the remaining 10% of the category, you've got what I like to call kind of little pockets of growth from the likes of seltzers and cocktails in a can. Understandably, though, it's still small in size, but the potential for growth is really, really big in these particular smaller segments. Shoppers typically, when looking for these smaller segments, they're looking for kind of newness. They're looking for flavors. And we've seen that not just within RTD, but spirits particularly. The likes of flavored vodka, flavored gin, flavored rum have been hugely growing categories in the last 12 months. They're also looking to drink better. So that kind of low calorie content, better for you type drink and advertising on the can are becoming more and more important. And obviously the kind of on-trade type drinks, so those mixed drinks, those cocktails that people potentially are wanting to replicate themselves with friends in a park, are only further going to encourage this growth. If we look ahead in terms of forecasting, so the RTD category is projected to grow at about 30%, so plus 30% growth over the next 5 years. So really, really big opportunities in this particular category for the likes of yourselves and other convenience retailers to make this a really big I guess, opportunity in your fixtures. And then the last couple of things I'll say just as an introduction, obviously price mark packs. So price mark packs continuing to grow well ahead of standard packs within RTD. They offer, as I'm sure you know, a really big opportunity in terms of instilling that sense of trust to the end consumer. Ultimately, I guess giving them a sense of reassuring they're not being overcharged, making them really aware of the true price of the product. And then finally, slightly closer to home from a Diageo perspective, we've obviously got a fairly broad range of SKUs and brands within the category. If you take premix, for example, I think we account for 8 of the top 10 best-selling premix cans. And then in terms of some of those growing segments, which I mentioned, we've just had some really strong innovations land that we're following really closely in the form of Smirnoff Seltzers, the Smirnoff Passion Fruit Martini, the Gordon's Pink Martini in a can, and then a slightly more premium step on for those consumers wanting to trade up, the likes of the Tanqueray in a can in the 250ml format, so both the London Dry and the Flor de Sevilla. So I might stop there and let you guys, I'm sure, if you've got any questions, but that was a kind of whistle-stop tour of the category.
Great stuff. Here you go. So I think we'll go to Ali first. So what trends are working well for you in the RTD category within your store?
I would say definitely the big move to price marks packaging is making a big difference to our sales. Obviously, you got some on promotion for 2 for something, or generally most of them about 169 price mark. We find that makes a massive difference to the sales rate. We have like-for-like products next to each other, one price mark, one non. The price mark one outsells it vastly. I also agree very much so that the pre-mixed range is growing. We're finding the actual cocktails, the pre-mixed cocktails are growing a lot for us. I would say it's probably mostly because people, as we were sort of speaking about earlier before we went live, they're going for that more on the go or sort of serve at home effect. Obviously this has been prompted more so I'd say by the lockdowns. I think people have changed maybe their attitudes a bit and think we don't have to go to the pub to have a proper cocktail or whatever. They can actually do it at home and save money and obviously be in their own comfort of their own home. So I think that's a big move that's changed our sales for our ready to drink display area, definitely. And yeah, between the price marks and that move, I think we are making a big impact on that zone.
Okay. And do you think that when it comes to MPD in RTDs, you're at the forefront?
I would say so, yes. I think we're quite competitive, and I think, as I said, our customer base is increasing, and it's not just new customers; it's the same customers we had that may have had it at the pub, and they've actually started buying them now as well, which is very good from our perspective.
Cool. And Jas, I mean, I've seen your store. You've got a very big collection of RTDs alcohol in your store. So you trade with Go Local. And what approach did you take from when you put RTDs? Was it more chilled? Was it more ambient? Or have you got a combination of both?
I think, like Ali's already mentioned, and Hugo's already mentioned, the price products and 2 for the certain products where you get 2 for the price of special price. But the main thing what I've seen changing the trend obviously is that something like that has to be in a chiller. Chiller range has got to be a winner for this sort of stuff. RTD basically are ready to drink. If you buy something like that, and a lot of people say, well, we'll take it home, put it in the fridge for 3 hours first and then drink it afterwards, it ain't going to happen. It's an impulse purchase as well as a home purchase. Most importantly, and I think Ali's touched on this, is that this trend is growing because the on-trade suffered. A lot of people put their own bars in the gardens and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people drinking at home. They've invested money into making gardens, outdoor facilities for friends to come around and drink. So all this is the new way of this RTD cocktails, chiller style promotions. That's the way it's going to grow. I feel that people that have invested £5,000 and £10,000 in the gardens ain't going to be rushing to pubs. They're still going to create a new trend of drinking at home, whereby they're going to be buying these sort of drinks They're going to be looking at exploring new flavors. They're going to be drinking at home. So you've got to aim at a different market altogether now, because it's a market pre-COVID. We didn't have that market. Mm-hmm. So when you say you're seeing a massive growth in the next 5 years, you're going to see a 20-30% growth in this. This is why one of the reasons why it's going to grow that fast. But to be market leaders in this group, you've got to keep changing your flavors. You've got to keep putting your promotions on, and more so for the impulse purchase is that it has to be in a chiller if you're going to create an impact. But the other thing is obviously drinking at home. Is drinking in gardens, socialising together, bringing friends around and stuff like that. And they're not looking for Lambrinis anymore, sort of type. They're looking for new exotic drinks, and they're looking at the same experience what they're going to get in a pub. Basically ordering a cocktail and something like that. But that's my view on that. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I've changed my trend in putting that sort of stuff in, you know what I mean?
And it's right what you say. I mean, when the new Bailey's Pina Colada came out, use that for an example. And then you had the demand for that was so high. And I think we was pretty fortunate this time that in our sector, in the convenience sector, we managed to get it at the right time as well.
Yeah.
So it's that experience that, our community, our shoppers were experiencing outside. They expect us to have it at the forefront when MPD's launch now. And I think that's a trend for us retailers, Hugo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that's been said, actually. It's kind of stolen the words out of my mouth. I think the chiller aspect is just a no-brainer. I think there was a really good stat going around last year that was 9 out of 10 RTD drinks purchased are consumed within the first 2 hours. Yeah. So it lends itself to it needs to be cold. I think you're absolutely spot on, Jas, about the kind of garden occasion and in parks. I think people are looking, particularly in these newer segments where potentially there's a little bit of, I guess, unknown about the taste of a product. So take seltzers or cocktails in the can. No one's quite sure about how it's going to taste. But when you've got products that have really strong brand equity across other categories, I think that's going to lend itself really well as being a bit of almost a kind of safety bet when coming in and not quite sure about the taste and the way it's going to show up to friends and family. So I think that's going to be really important. And then the other thing, probably good to get both your thoughts actually in terms of what you've seen working, is this opportunity of multi-packs. Now, I'm not for 1 minute saying that you should go and range a whole load of 10 packs in your stores, because I totally appreciate it's not a category that typically gets a lot of space. But I do think, particularly this summer, with some big events coming up, I know the Euros are on now, but then you've got the Olympics and you've got obviously rugby in kind of late September, October. Mm-hmm. And when you've got people gathering together at homes, potentially instead of pubs, I do think it lends itself well to certain times of the year for where people might be coming in and looking for more than just a single can, or needing to bundle kind of 6 cans into the one bag and try and take it home. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to kind of get your thoughts if you've seen an opportunity.
Can I interrupt on that one? You've said 10 packs. Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely brilliant. People are looking to explore. Price margin, even if they don't like the taste, it's not going to break the purse. So mm-hmm. they'll drink it and then they'll say, no. But what I'm saying about the multi-packs is have a mixed multi-pack. Mm-hmm. When you have a mixed multi-pack, what happens is you might be catering for the younger age, you might be catering for the older age. An example, if you've got, say, for example, 10 different varieties in a pack, they will then soon realize which one they like.
Yeah.
And they try them. So that will be certainly an increase in sales. Then you can start putting them 6 together or 4s and 10s together in one brand. But initially, a multi-pack is a different market altogether.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In a chiller, but have a special price on it, or even maybe a cocktail glass to go with it.
Yeah, kind of an instant gratification type thing.
You're tying in a line in where, we're going to get a glass, so we might as well get a multi-pack and we might as well try out the flavors. So that's just an example of growing different brands, because somebody might be cautious of trying one flavor and the girl might say, well, I want a different flavor and I want a gin and somebody wants a vodka or something. But if you've got it in a multi-pack, but it's multi-pack basic in multi-brand. You know what I mean? So multi-flavor.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair shout.
Selling point for you.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something that. Sorry, go ahead.
Go on, Hugo. Carry on.
No, I was just going to say it's definitely something that we're exploring internally, not just across premix. It's within the alco pop space as well, with some of the new flavor variants that we're releasing. So I think it's a really fair shout, Jas. And I think when you think about, when I was a lot younger, those cereal packets that have the 8 different flavors and everyone fights to get the Cocoa Pops. But it's got legs, I think, if we can make that work.
And what would work well in your store, Ali?
I would say, I think the only problem as such with the multi-pack, to keep it chilled like we keep all our RTDs chilled, you have to give quite a big zone to the multi-pack to keep it chilled. And you either have to have the extra room to put it, or you're going to have to look to kill some of the one of the ranges they have. So I think that's the only issue that comes along with it. Otherwise, definitely we have customers that even buy 12 cans at once on the promo, and they would buy the multi-pack. Well, then that is a problem. So I think, as has already been pointed out by Jas, I think like an incentive definitely to try and promote it initially for retailers to want to try it as well. Because it's not as such the problem of financially buying it to get it in. It's you need to display it properly. For example, for us, our RTDs in the top of the chiller, it wouldn't make sense if we put the multi-pack on a random other place in the shop.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. It has to be. I mean, I don't know how far Diageo wants to go with this, but maybe trialing with 10 retailers, something like that, and provide them with a multi-pack fridge or a fridge that'll enhance multi-pack and single can. Or a little bit, rather than having a foot wide, maybe have a 2 foot wide fridge or something like that.
And that's the beauty of what we do, Hugo, here on Sea Talk is, we get the retailers, bringing you the good value back to yourselves and doing them trials with selected retailers. I think, Jas, you made a really good point. I mean, I'm the same in my store. Why do a price promotion and promote something because it's harder to get that price up? But how do you do a gift with purchase and it locks that shopper in? It's like Ali says, how do you create that perfect display at the front? How can Diageo help us create that perfect display at the front of the store? And we're coming in, we're still not too late. We're coming into, hopefully some crazy hot weather coming soon. I think it's a perfect time.
Yeah. No, points taken. Absolutely, points taken.
And what do you guys do on social media within your stores? I mean, I think this is a big thing that retailers need help from, Hugo, is how do you create the right social media assets that we can use within our own Facebook groups for our stores?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say just a quick cap on that again was, see, we're talking about convenience, we're talking about retailer, okay? Now, when we're talking, we are on this panel talking about the retailer, okay, not the big supermarkets or anything like that. So we are trying to encourage people to shop local and buy our products locally. Hence, as we've seen pre-COVID, people forgot about supermarkets. They all of a sudden realized there were convenience stores that's been there 50 years and started using them. So we don't want to lose that now. We've got that customer. We don't want to lose him. So one advantage that the retailer has, I always feel, over the supermarket is that we can give them chilled.
Yeah.
Supermarkets don't. I don't know what size pack they put in, they don't chill it. We do. So we've got that wine chiller, we've got that beer filler, we've got the multi-pack RTD drink chiller. We have an advantage over any of them supermarkets. So sometimes price is just keen, yes it is, but it's the other element that sells it for us is because it's cold when they buy it and I don't have to stick it in the fridge for 3 hours before they drink it.
Totally. It's that kind of convenience.
Convenience, exactly. But that's our advantage over the supermarkets are selling alcohol, basically.
Yeah. And Ali, what do you do with on social media in your store with brands?
I would say overall, we're actually quite weak, mainly because for example, on Facebook to sort of retweet, I guess you put it, retweet the info. There isn't much out there. I mean, there's sometimes a bit for sure when you get a new one, but there isn't like a permanent one. Like for example, there's a brand new Johnny Walker out, the Game of Thrones limited edition, but there isn't much content to push it, even though we have it. Likewise with the RTDs. Because even though it's good to keep promoting the new ones, it's always good to give a reminder of all the gin and tonics and all the other things that we have, the generic ones, which are still some of them are the better sellers. And I think one of the questions will come up with maybe on the seltzers, but I think our customers, they don't know much about the seltzers. So as well as being advertisement, like giving a brief explanation of what it is, like if it's stronger, if it's weaker, for them or from their perspective, we understand what it is, but from a customer's view, and obviously on our social media, we can promote it.
Yeah.
There's only one way to promote something like that. Obviously, it might be the right time or the wrong time. Is sample in-store sampling.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that has to be maybe arranged on a Friday evening or a Saturday evening when a lot of our sales are coming through. They're not going to go home absolutely over the limit on driving or anything like that. But a little sample say, look, do you fancy trying some of this? And obviously, you've got to do something like a media package for the retailers and say, right, you've got a Facebook page or you've got a website. This is what we've done for you. Stick that clip on to your customers. Whatever you want to promote with it, and as a Diageo would do the advert for us to promote.
Yes,
that.
Exactly. Yeah.
As a professional advert, rather than just making a little poster or something like that, or taking a picture of a fridge or something like that.
Exactly.
Something that speaks volume. You know what I mean? Picture paints 1,000 words. So you do a little clip, and then we bang it on our social medias, and we sell it to our customers.
Exactly.
It's a winner all the way around.
Yeah. If we think about the seltzers as a category, and similar to, I guess, the way it's behaved in the US, no one's quite expecting it to take off as big or as quickly as it has there over here. But certainly, it's a smaller segment that is gaining traction, particularly in convenience instead of the grocers. Yep. So it's forecast to grow by about 21% between now and 2024. It's obviously got that lighter calorie content type appeal to it. The chilled aspect remains absolutely critical. And it's really kind of that ideal serve for consumers. And Jas and Ali, you mentioned those potential new consumers coming into the category from, say, beer or cider that want something that potentially has that low-calorie element to it, refreshing nature, which kind of keep balance and moderation in mind. I think that's the real appeal of seltzers. If I think about from a Diageo lens, so we've obviously launched 2 Smirnoff seltzers, raspberry rhubarb and orange and grapefruit, with a passion fruit to come. In terms of performance, so in short, we've been really, really happy within convenience. So the category alone is worth about £1.8 million for the last year. And the Smirnoff seltzers together have accounted for 35% of that, followed by Kopparberg, which has accounted for 27% share. So I guess in summary, yes, we've been really happy as the kind of leading seltzer performer in convenience. But I think what it's shown is being a new segment, and you've got consumers coming in who, without that social media we spoke about, don't quite know which ones to tap into. Certainly, brands that have that parent brand in other categories have performed well. And I'm not just talking about Smirnoff, I'm talking about Kopparberg as well. So they've had, a really strong time of it with that kind of brand equity that they've built through their cider business. So I'm not sure if you guys have got any early thoughts on what's performed well.
I would say, again, our biggest problem is I don't think as it's quite a new thing and people just aren't recognizing it. I would say they are going for more the darker berries as a whole throughout the whole range, just to get that more sort of a kick out the taste. But yeah, I think it's, as Jas pointed out, I think it would be worth giving some sort of demonstration samples that we can give to our common customers that we know obviously would be interested in that line of product, not just any customer that wouldn't buy it. And then just to get them introduced to it, well, as you say, it's a very new product, and to get the growth going, people just need to find out about it, really.
And do you see that being, is it a sampling thing, or is it also a kind of educational at shelf on point of sale type thing?
I think a mixture of both would be good. Both the sort of like tickets that come out over the shelf, just the simple ones, but also sampling. Obviously, sampling within reason. We don't expect you to give pallets and pallets away to the same retailer, but like a case or something similar to that we could just give out a few samples. We already tried that with most of the stuff in the shop, where we do get the odd bit of free stock, and I think to get the seltzers going, something like that would definitely help.
So I think that ends this on a really good note, actually, Hugh. So I think the key message is new brand education.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the guys are ready to get behind you, and let's see if we can bring this to life in a couple of 3 stores.
Yeah, I think that's really fair, and the feedback's been absolutely taken on board. I've got a whole page of notes here, which is which is great.
Good stuff. So that comes to a close of the Diageo RTD panel. Thanks, guys, for being on, and
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you.
look forward to the next steps with Hugo. Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
thank
Take care. Have a good week.